Welcome to Charts Today. My name is David Linton, and today's edition for Tuesday, the 3rd of February, comes to you from London. And I'll start, as always, by looking at the dollar. It's been the big news in terms of the macro charts. We fell to a 4-year low, have found support at around 95.17, and we are now just recovering a little bit off that low. So the fact that we made the 4-year low isn't good. We've activated a downside target. So, the reality is this is the weekly chart. That's the longer term view. The daily chart, remember, that's my medium term. We're seeing here pushing lower. And then the 60-minute chart, we're seeing that through the cloud at an upside target. So that's looking more positive. So bearish, bullish, if you like. And then if we look at the euro on the daily chart, we're seeing that we nearly got to the target and we've just run out of steam really with that renewed dollar strength. Japanese yen, of course, has been a big story. That was the intervention that we saw last week. Back to the sort of finding cloud support, just a little bit of a breach there, but for the moment we are still in a bull trend. Watch the 60-minute targets there on the chart. That's going to be quite key. Taking a look at sterling, still looking pretty strong, but again running sideways, just that renewed dollar strength. And one area that's really been amazing is the Australian dollar, and here we see it against the sterling, where it's gone from around $2.10 to 1.90. I know that because I've just been in Australia for 2 months, and you really felt it. So here's Bitcoin, and we're seeing downside targets. The picture's really not very much changed, and if we look at the 60-minute chart, we can see here that we've got a little mini upside target. We're not quite above the cloud, but that long-term breach is pretty key. NASDAQ on the short-term chart, really interesting. That was the sell-off that we saw last week, and then we've got a downside target not yet activated. But if we made new lows on the NASDAQ, that would be the lower high, lower low scenario, and that would push us lower. But that's only showing up on the cash chart. If we look at the daily, it's still looking pretty bullish. Amazingly, stocks are holding on, but we're not seeing new highs, especially in the Mag 7, barring Google, which we'll look at in a minute. FTSE is looking good, breaking higher there. And again, on the 60-minute chart, we're just waiting to see if we activate this upside target, but that is pretty bullish confirmation. The DAX in Germany, this is the future, looking pretty strong this morning, up 1%. Again, waiting to see if we activate that daily target. So really quite key there. Japan up 3%. So settling down a bit there after last week's woes, and the Hang Seng actually up a little bit, having pulled back from that new high that it broke, activating the upside target. But that was a big move for the Hang Seng. And if you look at India, that's up 2.7% overnight. And again, on the 60-minute chart, you can see that really big jump there yesterday. Today as market closing now. Taking a look at the Aussie market, up nearly 1%, but really not looking great when we look at the chart. And then if we go to Brent crude, I put the energy report out to clients this morning. It is looking bearish for today, and just a very mixed picture. The rule on Brent crude is bullish above 70, bearish below 70. Taking a look at cocoa, that's up 1%. So downside targets there, and coffee, much the same. So we're seeing that change there. And sugar, having activated downside targets, is looking like it's going to find support at around $14. So that's quite key. Now, everyone's asking me about gold and silver. What's going on? Well, if we look at the daily chart on gold, we can see here that that upside target we've pulled right the way back. It's all going to be about the price action that we build now. Now we've got a new, that's what causes the thrust, is a thrust off a low, a pullback, and then a move to a new high. Remember, you can do these on TradingView as well. And we are seeing a target back to sort of just below the previous high level. So do watch for more targets being generated on multiple time frame charts. Silver, a similar picture, downside targets that were met, upside targets as well. And then if we look at the 10-year, we can see here on the bond yields, we are just creeping higher again. So picture, not much change. If we look at the Mag 7, Apple's up 4%. That's a real recovery. No clear targets there, but if we go to the 60-minute, we can see here that we are really just now in a short-term bull trend. There's the lower high, sorry, higher low, and then that break there is the higher high. That's a trend change on that short-term chart, so that's quite key. Taking a look at Amazon, we can see this is the only stock that's actually pushing to, sorry, this is not the only stock, but it is looking positive there. What I meant to say was Alphabet is the only stock really nudging new highs. Upside targets there. Very bullish chart indeed. That's the best looking chart in the Mag 7, which is what we said in our LSEG calls for 2026, that we said that that Alphabet was the best looking chart for 2026. And you can see here short-term targets as well. Microsoft, spare report for Microsoft. That downside target given at 500 to 419, and we're now sitting at 423. So really not great there. And Meta coming off as well. And Nvidia also down nearly 3%, just struggling really. If we look at the price action on Nvidia, there was the October high, and that's hanging over us until we can make a new high. We do have a new upside target, but the 60-minute chart has just activated a new downside target. So really doesn't look great there. And then Tesla in the news, of course, with a lot of news flow today around Elon Musk. Again, we're waiting to see that downside target activated. And on the daily chart, we can see we've got a mixed picture, the downside target being the latest one. That's it for today. Keep an eye on those targets. Until tomorrow, happy charting. Bye for now.